Martha quickly became the heartbeat of the nursery, her soft humming replacing the eerie quiet that once haunted those walls, and the baby, whom Jonathan named Alara, clung to her warmth as if she were the sun itself. Yet Martha never forgot her place, always bowing her head when Jonathan entered, always stepping aside as if apologizing for breathing too much air in a house that wasn't hers. But every time he watched her rocking Alara, he saw something he didn't expect: peace, a feeling he feared had died with his wife, and it made him linger near the doorway longer and longer, drawn to the tenderness Martha poured into every tiny movement, every lullaby. Little did he know that the staff below stairs were starting to murmur, their eyes sharp and unkind, especially Agatha, the head housemaid whose envy boiled whenever Jonathan's gaze softened at the sight of the cook cradling the child. Agatha had once fantasized that her loyalty would earn her the widower's affection, that maybe she would one day stand by his side, but now this round, simple cook was stealing the smallest moments that Agatha believed belonged to her, and jealousy can turn the sweetest servant into a venomous threat, so she watched Martha closely, waiting for the moment she could make her fall. Meanwhile, Martha's nights grew longer as Alara struggled, crying with the hunger of grief more than the hunger of her belly, and Martha sometimes cried too, silently, because she had never been needed before, not really, not like this, and feeling essential was both beautiful and terrifying, especially when Jonathan entered one night to find Martha pacing with Alara pressed against her chest as tears shone on her lashes, and without thinking he stepped closer, brushing a thumb beneath her eye, whispering, "You're not alone," and though the touch lasted only a heartbeat, it left a warmth that spread through Martha's soul like fire catching on dry wood. She pulled away quickly, cheeks burning. She knew better than to dream. She knew widowers didn't look twice at women like her. Yet his kindness lingered in the air like a forbidden hope. Day by day, with every feeding, every song, every tiny burp and breath, she grew more attached to the baby, and to the man who was learning how to live again simply by watching her love his daughter. But fate is cruel when happiness grows where it's not allowed, and soon enough, Agatha made her move, catching Jonathan alone in his study. She twisted the truth like a snake's coil, hissing that the cook was getting too comfortable, that she was trying to replace Amelia, that the staff feared scandal would stain the Hale family forever, and Jonathan, though he dismissed her sharply, felt the old grief flare inside him, leaving him shaken. Later that night, he found Martha asleep in the rocking chair with Alara on her chest, the baby rising and falling with each of Martha's breaths. He watched a long while, heart aching with gratitude, but a whisper of fear slipped through his thoughts. Was he letting himself feel something dangerous? When Martha awoke and realized he had been there, she panicked, apologizing in a tumble of words, promising to sleep on the cold kitchen floor if needed, and Jonathan stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, saying just one sentence that melted the fear from her heart: "You are the reason my daughter is still alive." And for the first time in her entire life, Martha felt like more than her body, more than the jokes people made behind her back. She felt like she mattered. But outside the nursery door, Agatha watched with eyes full of poison, vowing that if Martha dared dream of belonging in this house, she would make sure those dreams were crushed before they even bloomed. Winter thawed slowly into spring, and with each passing week, Martha became more than the cook who nursed the child. She became Alara's laughter, her heartbeat, her warmth, and Jonathan found himself drawn to the nursery more often than to his own duties, making excuses to stand near the cradle where Martha bent lovingly over the infant, pretending he came only to check on Alara, when the truth was he needed the gentle hope Martha brought into the room. But hope can be a fragile thing, and the outside world, especially the high society Jonathan belonged to, had no mercy for a widower who allowed a servant to step so close to his family's heart. And it didn't take long before gossip slithered beyond the mansion's walls, twisting into cruel rumors that the fat cook was scheming to secure her future by seducing the grieving master, that she wasn't nursing the child out of kindness but out of ambition. The cruelty of those whispers ripped into Martha when she overheard the maids laughing below stairs, mocking how Jonathan seemed to prefer plump arms these days, and though she held her tears until Alara slept, the words cut deeper than knives, every insecurity she carried her whole life reopening like a fresh wound. Jonathan noticed the change in her eyes a little dimmer, her smile forced, and one evening he found her packing her small belongings in the kitchen, tears spilling silently as she whispered that she didn't belong there anymore, that she had overstepped, that she would rather leave than be the reason the baby grew up surrounded by scandal, and Jonathan's heart slammed against his ribs with panic he didn't understand. Martha leaving felt like losing Amelia all over again, like the light would be ripped from his world once more. Without thinking, he grabbed her wrist gently, voice trembling as he said, "Alara needs you." "I need you." But Martha shook her head, refusing to make eye contact, fearing that hope in his voice was just desperation disguised as affection. Before Jonathan could say more, Agatha entered with a triumphant smirk, announcing that wealthy guests were arriving in a week. people Jonathan must impress if he wanted to secure his position in society, and she suggested that having Martha anywhere near the gathering would be embarrassing, especially since, in her venomous words, no man of status should be seen keeping a woman like that so close. Jonathan's jaw clenched with anger, ready to defend Martha, but Martha placed a trembling hand on his arm and whispered, "She's right, sir. Maybe after the event, I will return," quietly. Even though in her heart she planned to leave forever, disappear into a world where no one noticed her except when they needed food, Jonathan stared at her, frustration and fear tangled in his chest. But before he could argue further, Alara's cry echoed from the nursery, sharp, scared, desperate, and Martha rushed upstairs, holding the infant close, knowing the baby could sense the tension and the threat of losing the only mother she had ever known. That night, Jonathan stood by the doorway again, but this time his eyes weren't soft with admiration. They were on fire with determination, because while society expected him to keep his distance, his heart had already crossed the line, and he realized that Martha wasn't just saving his daughter, she was saving him, and he was not going to let the world take that away. But outside the mansion, carriages were already on their way, filled with judgmental eyes and wagging tongues, and among them was a woman from Jonathan's past, beautiful, proud, and perfectly aware of how to manipulate society, someone Agatha hoped would replace Martha forever. The storm was coming, and Martha, with her breaking heart and gentle arms, would soon find herself at the center of a battle she never asked to fight.